The meeting of the Waco City Council on October 4, 2022 to order at 3 p.m. Please join me please join me in a moment of silence and remember those who have been impacted by Hurricane Ian in Florida. Thank you. We provide an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on any agenda item or during the hearing of visitors portion of the agenda. On items other than public hearings, speakers will be allotted 1 3-minute presentation, regardless of the number of agenda items the speaker wishes to address. If you're here to speak and have not filled out a registration card, please see the City Secretary staff at the registration table outside of the auditorium to provide registration information so that staff can contact you if necessary. If you have handouts, please let us know at the beginning of your presentation and staff will distribute those to council. If you're unable to approach the podium due to physical limitations, a microphone is available to be brought to you. Is there anyone present who would like to speak on a work session agenda item? If not, then we will move to the first, sorry about this. Seeing no one is registered, we will now recess the regular session and convene to work session with a report from our city manager.
Thanks, Mayor, and good afternoon to the council and the public that's in attendance today. I do, in my manager's report, I want to talk about one. I'll list it as a change to the agenda, although it's probably not one that necessarily needs a call out. I'm going to make a call out on it. It's resolution 757, 758. It's a modification to a term that was listed in the item's background. This is on the Magnolia Economic Development Project. I listed in the item's background regarding the parking of the future mobile visitor center that we're purchasing, that we'd be able to park that at the silo grounds. After further communication with Magnolia, rather than the mobile visitor center being parked on the grounds, the city is going to be provided with access to the ground on event days with a 10x10 booth. This item continues to have my recommendation and will bring significant value, I feel like, to the city in downtown Waco. Additionally, today I have two organizational updates or recognition of employees I wanted to highlight. We've made two recent hiring decisions. So we've got some new team members in the audience. First is Jennifer Branch. Neither one of these names are going to be unfamiliar, I think, to you. But Jennifer Branch has recently joined our economic development team as our economic development manager. Jennifer's been a staple in the Waco community since 2009 and has really spent her professional career committed to the future growth and development of our community, and particularly its workforce. Before joining our team here at the city, Jennifer served as the Director of Existing Industries and Workforce Development at the Waco Chamber of Commerce, as well as in a director role in the aerospace industry at L3 Harris, most recently. She's also led the creation of a Women in Aviation group, which is pretty unique and flourishing. I think she still serves on the executive committee there, and is pursuing her own pilot's license, or have you already gotten it? It's in the works. So we're very excited to have Jennifer join our team at the City of Waco. And why don't you just give a wave to the crowd? There you are. Our second hire that, oh, he's over here. Okay. Josh, give a wave so people don't scan the audience. But our second hire I wanted to focus on today is Josh Caballero. Josh has recently joined our housing department, where he'll serve as our community engagement officer. Josh has been living in Waco, I believe, since 2005 when he moved to go to Truett Seminary at Baylor. And prior to living in Waco, this is a fact that you need to know about Josh. He grew up in Floydada, Texas. So we share some West Texas roots, me and him. If you don't know much about Floydada, it's okay. It is it's the pumpkin capital of Texas.
Really?
You now have useless information. More importantly, though, for the past 6 years, Josh has been a staple over at Grassroots Community Development, working most recently as the Director of Community Organizing. He's worked with residents, business owners, churches, and schools to really focus on creating and improving thriving neighborhoods within our city, and I think his talent's going to be well utilized here at the city of Waco. Both of these individuals are just extremely active in our community, and I'm excited to welcome them to the city of Waco team, and I'm sure y'all will be as well.
On board, your qualifications are outstanding, and your reputations in our city are outstanding, and we're so glad to have you guys on our team.
Yeah, welcome to both. Glad to have employees of this caliber joining our team with such a wonderful team that y'all are really enhancing what we do here. And also want to note, in terms of Josh Caballero, he's also an outstanding Baptist. I can speak from personal experience.
I feel like we are finally putting Waco Family Medicine to shame. I feel like Dr. Griggs was really recruiting the best in the community for the past couple of years. So watch out, employers across the community. City of Waco is here, and we are lassoing up our community's best and brightest. Jennifer and Josh, so excited y'all are joining the team.
No, like the same. You guys already have a great reputation in the community, and we're glad to see this caliber of Wacoan come on to work for the city. The city's a great place to work, right, Bradley?
Amen, sir.
Absolutely. I would offer a round of applause for you guys, too.
All right, next up, I'm going to invite Vicki Carpenter from Carter Blood Care to the podium. She's got a special presentation, I believe.
Good afternoon. I'm with Carter Blood Care, and every year for the past 9 years, maybe 10, we have been doing Waco Battle of the Badges. And comes at a very important time for the blood collection because we're coming off of summer, which everything seems to slow down a little. We don't have high school students. Everybody's on vacation. And we're usually calling for critical appeal during the summer. So this came about as a partnership in 2013, and we put it together right before Labor Day weekend, and we've been doing it right around Labor Day weekend every year. And it has been a big help in boosting the blood supply going into that holiday weekend. It has, this year, we didn't have to call for a critical appeal. So huge help, and we really appreciated that. Some facts I wanted to share before I announce this year's winner is that since 2014, we've collected 3,038 units, which has made it possible for our local hospitals to save 9,114 lives. In 2022. So this year we had 14 blood drives, and our donor center participated as well. So people coming to our donor center were able to vote for their favorite first responder. And we registered 294 donors, and this is over about a 2.5-week period. We received a total of 274 votes. We did have some registered donors that were at our hospitals, because both our hospitals participate, and then we kicked off at Bubba's. They welcomed us there. And we had a few people they didn't vote. And we collected 269 units, which impacted 807 lives this year. And this year, I would like to ask both Chief Victorian and Chief Summers to join me down here.
Drama.
Ladies and gentlemen, main event.
Next level.
I don't know. Championship belt. Championship belt.
I want to thank you both
He brought it.
I want to thank you both for all that y'all have done this year and this past year to make this a success. We couldn't do it without the chief's support. But we're here to honor the fire department this year because they are the winner. Not by them, fire department pulled it off this year. And
I felt awful last year, I really did.
You did?
Yeah, but she was on KWTX and she was accepting this and talking about it, and it was just bad. So I just had to
You had to put the pressure on, didn't you?
Team did a great job. I want to thank you for the work that you guys have done, putting out these flyers. So Lord, if you don't mind, make sure everybody gets one of those for next year so we can win.
So, to thank you for all you did, you get our traveling trophy for a year, at least. Depends on if you can keep it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Chief Summers, what do you have planned next after that great award?
Morris Day.
All right. That was very good. Very important cause, and certainly appreciate police and fire's support. Furthering into our agenda review, we did submit one informal report this council meeting. It's IR 746, which is an update from the Health District on the Community Health Needs Assessment. As you probably noted in the item, work is starting actually this week, so look for our team members to be out and about in the community as soon as Wednesday or Thursday this week, I believe.
I want to jump in real quick. I had the chance to connect with LaShonda Mallory Horn, who of course is our incredible Public Health District Director, and Deputy City Manager Emerson to talk about the strategies for this. And if you are one of the neighbors who has a health district worker show up at your door, we really encourage you to participate in the survey. This gives us really critical information. Also want to highlight, and Deputy City Manager Emerson, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there is a $50 gift card associated with this. And so I joked that I would gladly participate in the survey. However, I've not been randomly chosen. But just want to highlight the value that this provides to our community. And like filling out a census, this gives us data that we can use for years to come and is incredibly important to us.
$50, Deidre, is that right?
That is correct.
Is it particular to a vendor or?
$50 to HEB.
There you go. Well, that's $50 well spent these days. All right, further highlights from the agenda. We do have 2 public hearings that Clint will cover later in the work session. And then I'm just going to highlight one of our resolutions. It's Resolution 768. It's professional services contract with Martinez Architects LP for the design services for the new Fire Station 15 in West Waco. Martinez Architects is a Texas-based firm who specializes in fire and public safety facility design. Their work can be seen all around the state, including for fire departments in Irving, Harris County, McKinney, Midland, Pflugerville, and many others. We're excited as a staff to bring this item forward and expect the design to be completed in about June of 2023, with construction starting in the fall of 2023 and hopefully a new station out in West Waco by the spring of 2025.
Yeah, this is really exciting, especially for this fastest growing area of town, and it's right there will be there at Ritchie and Panther, and there are so many new rooftops going up every day, so I really appreciate the city manager's emphasis and priority on making sure that our newest citizens out there are served with the same high-quality fire service that the rest of Waco experiences as well, so thank you.
Just one clarification, city manager and city council members. Martinez was my maiden name, but I don't know these guys.
Duly noted.
Appreciate that. All right, and then ordinances wise, we have 6 total on the agenda. 1's a first reading and 5 are second readings. With that, I'll conclude my comments.
I would just like to make a comment on the first ordinance. I'll make the comment tonight too, but Chief Victorian, you may have lost the blood drive, but I think you won with 12 new officers here. So that's a good thing. And it's an important deal because I know 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I got on council, we were a little behind on hiring new officers and we were a little low on the police department. So I'm glad to see that we're getting up to speed on personnel, and this will help us because we're operating right at minimum staffing on patrol, and this will help us get above. I know that's very important in all the areas of the city. And these officers will help supplement evening and nighttime patrols. We'll have increases in visibility, and that's a deterrent to crime. And we'll have better engagement of relational policing too. So I think the 12 new officers work for the city and in so many different ways, and I'm glad to see your leadership, Chief Victorian, on getting this all in place, and I'm happy that we're getting staffed up here.
I'd like to make a comment on that one as well. Thrilled to death to see that we're going up to 239. I know that's still a stretch for us as much as we're growing, but good to see that we're taking a step forward to get it to, and hopefully we'll stay at full number of police officers with the little incentives that we're giving to the police officers to join us. Maybe that'll draw more officers to us and more officers willing to stay on in the city of Waco. But I'm glad to see that we're going to have 12 new police officers out.
Thanks, council members. Definitely agree, and tell your friends. We're looking for great officers, either through transfer or new hires to come through the academy, because it is a challenge to recruit and retain the best.
I'll just add to that I really appreciate our approach to this, in that I think we're really looking at a holistic approach to ensuring Waco's a safe space, and ensuring that we have good personnel is critical for that, the right numbers of people. But I see Susie March in the audience today and excited about the $1.46 million grant that we received for violence interruption to community organizations. And so I just think that we really do have this great opportunity in Waco right now to approach crime in a modern way that is going to really ensure that our city is safe. But one way that we've got to do that is by having a well-staffed department. So thanks to city management and our police force for all that they do to ensure that we're able to have that goal of keeping Waco a safe city. Is that all? All right. The consent agenda includes resolutions 2022-756 through 780. Are there any items council would like to remove from the consent agenda? And we have a affidavit of substantial interest on 762, 758, and 776. All right, the consent agenda will include resolution 756 through 780, except 758, 62, and 76. Councilmember Borderoot has filed affidavits of substantial interest on each of those items. And the next item on the agenda is the work session, item 2022-747 through 750. Bradley, would you please introduce the first work session?
I will, Mayor. Our first one, I'm excited about this one. This is Missy and Patrick, why don't y'all step on up. This is a discussion of our Human Resources Department Strategic Review. Missy Pashosky, our Human Resources Director, is going to provide a brief intro, a few slides on this item, and she'll be followed up by Patrick Ibarra from Mirando Group, who we've actually brought on to help us lead this strategic review. Each year, the council's familiar, kind of as part of our efforts to create a high-performing government. I take a couple areas and focus attention and review. We've done something similar to this in communications as well as in safety. And next up is the process of people, which is about as important a thing as we do around here. If we can't accomplish the residents' goals without our people, and human resources plays a huge role in that. The good news is that our human resources team has already shown that they're a learning team. and they've been focused on improvements, I feel like, for the last few years. A key metric that I watch for this is our time to hire, which Missy implemented a couple years ago, and it's down significantly. That's a good thing. And I just really appreciate the work of the HR team, the way they've modified recruitment, the way they've tried new things, and really helped me ensure that our city staff's well-trained and well-compensated. But, you know, we face a lot of headwinds, and I think Patrick and Missy are going to talk a little bit about that today. Headwinds to hire new people, retain our valuable staff, and ultimately to be the leader in our region. We need to focus and make sure that we're always getting better related to people. So I'm excited for y'all to hear from Patrick and Missy today on this topic.
Thank you, Bradley. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Missy Pashosky, the city's Waco's Human Resources Director, and today I'd like to talk to you about an exciting opportunity for the HR department. We've engaged Patrick Caballero with May Horrendo Group, as Bradley has said, to lead us through a strategic review of our department. I want to take a moment to read Patrick's bio. Patrick Caballero is an entrepreneur of ideas and architect of innovation who seeks to challenge the status quo thinking of "we've always done it that way" and replace it with a progressive approach to continuous improvement. With experience as a city manager and consultant in a Fortune 500 company, he advises leaders and high achievers from around the world, helping them clarify their direction, focus their efforts, and execute to achieve sustainable change and improved performance. He's also one of the nation's leading experts on developing and implementing succession planning programs for public sector agencies. Patrick is co-founder and partner of the May Horrendo Group, an organizational effectiveness consulting firm that brings fresh ideas, innovation, and next practices to help government succeed in the 21st century. May Horrendo is a Spanish word meaning getting better all the time, and it reflects Patrick and his firm's approach with clients who seek to improve the performance of their organizations and the individuals within them. The May Horrendo Group's clients include a variety of federal, state, and local government agencies nationwide, including several cities in Texas. An author, conference presenter, and educator, Patrick has 2 advanced degrees, a master's in public administration from Arizona State University, and a master's in human resources and organizational development from the University of San Francisco. Before I turn the presentation over to Patrick, I just want to spend a couple moments talking about what HR does. The HR department is responsible for managing the employee life cycle. It includes developing, administering, and providing products and services that support each stage of this very unique cycle. All leaders in the organizations are an extension of this work through their interactions with employees, and people are at the core of every service the city delivers. This slide displays just a brief snapshot of some of the services HR provides. These numbers are from our prior fiscal year. From reviewing over 11,000 employment applications to evaluating and making recommendations on over 400 position requests from our 26 unique departments, the quantity and pace of work in the HR department is picking up. The pace is increasing and the quantity of work is increasing. Additionally, employees have options on where they can work today. There are 5 generations in the workforce, and each has a different workplace expectation. And all employers are battling to attract and retain talent. This review will conduct an in-depth analysis of the HR function to identify areas of strengths and areas where gaps or opportunities may exist. The review will include an evaluation of current programs, policies, practices, procedures, resources, technology, and benchmarking against of high-performing cities. The outcome is to identify a roadmap to assist in accelerating the role of the HR department as a service provider to execute its vision. This review is expected to take approximately 90 days. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick to kind of lead us through what that review looks like in more detail.
Great, thanks, Missy. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'll try to be brief about these remarks and share with you the perspective about what the value is of conducting this review. So let me just move on to the next slide, please. As Missy mentioned, you have 7 strategic goals. We believe that the most relevant one to this study is to build a high-performing city government. You've been doing that for the last several years. You continue to do that. I think as you all can appreciate, that's a process. You're never really finished. It's not really about buildings, equipment, technology, facilities, or those types of resources. It's really about having highly qualified, capable, mission-oriented people who choose every day to build a stronger Waco community. HR is obviously pivotal in that, and trying to make sure that happens, as well as operating departments who are deploying those resources to make sure all that's achieved on purpose on a daily basis. So that's the linkage here. Next slide, please. And as Missy has mentioned, as I think we've all seen, you can't pick up your news feed today without realizing the workforce is changing and the workplace is changing. And sometimes government as an industry has struggled to keep up with the changes in the workforce and how they've translated and manifested itself in the workplace. People of all generations are looking for a productive, engaging, enjoyable work experience. And that doesn't just start and end with HR. They are pivotal in that. But it's not the workplace that we used to know, even before COVID. In some respects, COVID accelerated trends that were already underway. Beyond the remote work, it's also people's expectations. And as Missy mentioned, with the different generations, there are different appetites and attitudes. A lot of that does fall or land into the HR department and how they're administering policies, procedures, recruitment, attraction, development. You've all been briefed on those conversations by Bradley. You obviously had some evidence of those successes today with the selection of those employees that Bradley introduced. This is an ongoing journey. You're never really going to be done. And in some respects, you can't always compete on the traditional dimensions. You have to sort of make those things that are most valuable to you as an employer more prominent in the minds of candidates. HR, again, is pivotal in articulating that value proposition. It's not unique to Waco. These are national trends, and they're really not just government trends. They supersede sectors. So the fact is, in order to build a 21st century workforce, you need a 21st century approach. And so because HR houses many of those practices, they're the subject of this review. And keep in mind, this review is really to capitalize on the strengths of the department. It's not a deficit closing. The department has many strengths. We're trying to augment and enhance those to make and accelerate their journey in their spirit of Mejorando to get better all the time and continually achieve that build a high-performing government. So next slide, please. Somebody a lot more capable than I said this a long time ago, and I think it's still relevant today. HR should be defined by not by what it does, but by what it delivers. Results that enrich the organization's value to customers, taxpayers, and employees. As an internal administrative support function, they're not so much outward-facing as they're inward-facing. In fact, I would call them the internal first responders, dealing with so many different issues, some of that not of their own making. It's dealing with department issues, it's dealing with organizational issues, all that. But it's, historically in HR, as an industry, it's been more activity-based as opposed to results-based. This organization, under the current city manager, has continually made that transition to make it more focused on what it accomplishes, not what it's doing. We're trying to build and, again, make that more systematic inside the organization by doing this review. Where is it strong? Where are areas for improvement? Next slide, please. The purpose of the review, the city as it scoped it, these were the 4 bullet points that it asked for consultants to address, is to ensure the proper alignment of HR management practices and policies and procedures with the city's strategic objectives. That key word there is alignment. Is the organization positioned structurally and operationally to make sure and help you achieve what you're trying to accomplish, as an administrative function? The second bullet point, explore how to better serve the needs of the customers of the department's portfolio of services. With over 1,200 employees, there's lots of opinions out there about what HR should or shouldn't be doing. As part of our review, we're meeting with department directors and members of their management team and including select employees to gather their input to say, what's HR doing well that you're pleased with? What are some areas for improvement? Again, because they're inward facing, lots of different points of view. They can't really be all things to all people. What is their role, especially in today's world? The third bullet point is to streamline the work processes used to carry out functional work, such as recruiting, compensation, training, and benefits. As we all, I think, in this room can appreciate, this is not simply just about adopting more policies. It's about how do you optimize those processes to ensure that you're meeting time is money, and speed is really what we're finding more and more, that HR departments have to move faster, sooner, and more effectively. And so we're going to try to identify what those processes are that can be done more effectively. And the fourth one is fundamentally to optimize the performance of the HR department members in the delivery of services and programs. I arrived in Waco last night. Our first meeting this morning was members of the HR department. They are crucial in this process because they're, in some respects, sort of having their own work reviewed, if you will, and that can be awkward and it can be a little bit anxiety-filled. So we had a meeting with them this morning, try to allay their concerns they may have about this project. We walked them through what the concepts are, what the value is, and what their role is, and fielded their questions. As you can imagine, when your department's under the microscope, it can make people feel just a little bit jittery. So we wanted to make sure and reinforce that this is to capitalize on their strengths. We're not trying to do anything else but help the department improve its performance. As you all are well aware, the portfolio of HR continues to expand in no particular order, going clockwise here, though, as far as priorities. Its role is about benefit and wellness. That's continuing. Missy mentioned about the changing generations. Fortunate for millennials, they're bringing a whole concept. It's not wellness, it's well-being. So organizations are trying to be more attentive to the whole notion of well-being. Employee relations with a 1,200 member workforce, like every other organization, you have challenges in regards to employee relations issues. Learning and development, notice it's not called training, it's learning. What's the organization's strategy and focus, and what's HR's purpose in trying to provide employees with capabilities they need today to deal with tomorrow's issues. Occupational health and safety, as you all know, you have a tremendous amount of exposure and risk in the community because you're out there every day, 24/7, 365. What's the occupational health and safety function of the organization, and what's HR's role? Similarly, the notion of risk management, trying to ensure that. And then last but not least, but a high priority, is talent acquisition and compensation. And I would go so far as to say it's really not up to the HR department to hire qualified people, it's up to operating departments. Obviously, they play a pivotal role in that sourcing and recruiting and that process, making it timely and efficient. We want to look at that. How can the department continually build on that, partnering with operating departments to make sure that you get first pick on the talent. Next slide, please. The background of my firm, as was mentioned in my bio, and wasn't that bio wonderful? I wrote that. So when I'm sitting over here, sort of sheepishly, kind of embarrassed, I write that. So of course it's wonderful. So the background, and after 15 years in city management, in 2002, I started my firm, the Mejorando Group. And Mejorando is Spanish, it means getting better all the time. We're based outside of Phoenix in Glendale, Arizona. We've done extensive work in the state of Texas. So this isn't our first foray into the state, so I think we understand just the political dynamics and the organizational expectations of the role of the government. I'm a sole proprietor. I bring talent around projects. So I have a subcontractor that's going to be working with me behind the scenes who has an extensive experience. Not only am I a former city manager, I'm a recovering HR director. So I'm in some stuff. So I bring a lot of experience, both understanding the city manager and working at it from an organizational level, as well as the HR level, and sort of how they're dealing with that at an operational level. And we've conducted these studies for a number of cities, including the cities of Savannah, Georgia, Placer County, California, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and a number of other cities around the country. I think there was one more slide. This is our portfolio of services, if you will. We're a boutique firm. We do a few things. We go really deep in doing those. We've circled on here on the slide in front of you the organizational analysis and process improvement. Going counterclockwise, we do a lot of strategic planning, including for the cities of Carrollton. I'll be in Flower Mound later this month. I work with a lot of elected officials because I'm a lion tamer, but I'm not a magician. So I just want to see your reaction to that. So anyway, so I work with a lot of cities trying to help them continually be successful by choice. We do, as Missy mentioned in the bio, we do a lot of work around talent management, modernizing those practices and policies, including succession planning. We also have a vast portfolio of leadership and management training workshops. We also do, finally, team development and effectiveness. I don't call it team building because people's eyes glaze over. But this is our portfolio of services, and occasionally I do executive coaching. But that gives you a little bit of sense about who we are, what we do, and our approach, and the outcome of this. The value proposition of this whole study is to continually help the department be successful by choice. What's it going to do about its structure, its strategy, its services? What's its role? What's the department's role? Candidly, the HR department plays a unique role in the organization. They're both an advocate and a regulator. So they're trying to manage risk on the regulatory side. They're almost like building inspections or code enforcement, as you see in planning development, right? They're trying to advocate for certain things, but they're also trying to mitigate risk. So being an advocate and a regulator, sometimes those roles can be challenging even in the best of times, but it's trying to help the department continually be successful and be both proactive and responsive to help the organization achieve its goals as a service provider. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. Hopefully we gave you enough detail to give you a better sense about what the purpose is and what the value is.
Great. The HR function, when I first started in working many, many years ago, it used to just be handing out the employee handbook and making sure you were on the payroll. That was kind of it. But it's really evolved into, in today's corporate America, kind of a C-suite role, a chief executive role. And Missy, I appreciate your leadership in kind of bringing the city to that stage, because now it's about employee health and safety, attracting and retaining talent, incorporating best practices, and really building a culture, which is what we've done here in Waco, which we continue to do, and Bradley kind of touched on in the introduction of our new employees, and professional development, which maybe we didn't see in a generation ago of the kind of employees that we're trying to bring into the city of Waco. So I like the direction and the initiative of taking stock of where we are with your group, Mr. Ibarra. I like the intentionality of it, and I'm fully supportive of it. And as you pointed out, I like how you put this all in the context of one of this council's primary goals of building a high-performing city government. And I think bringing you in and kind of giving us, again, stock of where we are, I think is going to be very helpful. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, I'll second all of that. I think this is a great process. We're excited to have you help us along our journey here. And I also appreciate the use of lion taming as opposed to cat herding. I feel like there's a subtle difference there, but it's one that I appreciated.
Patrick and Missy, thank you for this presentation. I think the health of our workforce is so critical to the success of the city. If we have employees that are reflective of our community, that are well-trained, that are thoughtful, that are engaged, we are going to be able to push forward our ambitions, the ambitions of our leadership. So thanks for really digging into the depths of this. We are really excited about some of the things coming out of HR right now. We passed paid parental leave. We passed a $15 an hour minimum wage for our employees. So I'm excited to see what's the next level of quality and modernization that we can move forward on. One of the pieces that I would add in terms of our strategic goals is that I think a culture of equity is crucial to the work that we do in HR, and I can't go a single council meeting without talking about intersectionality, so thank you, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, but the ways that all of our intersecting identities give us opportunities to experience oppression or privilege. And one of the ways that I think we can continue to develop in terms of HR is by evaluating all of our job postings. I think we've had some ongoing conversations about reviewing which job postings, the physical requirements are really crucial and which pieces those can be scrubbed. I was doing some quick Googling, and CDC says 1 in 4 Americans live with a disability that impacts their major life activities. And I would hate for us to see really thoughtful, equipped Wacoans skip out on a job opportunity that they could be incredible at because of the way that we've written some of these postings. So I want to put that little plug in there, but really excited to see what conversations come up with staff and with leaders from the front line all the way up to 3rd floor. So thank you.
I also echo my colleagues' remarks. And Mr. Ibarra, thank you for bringing Mejorando to Waco. And I know that Missy and you will work together to get to your mission here that says to recruit, train, develop, and retain a high-performing and diverse workforce. So I appreciate that sentence in there so much. Missy, I know you do your best, but Mr. Ibarra is going to help you do even better. So thank you, Mr. Ibarra, and welcome to Waco while you're here. And know that the council is behind HR.
Missy, you do such a great job, and it has been such a challenging couple of years, I know, in the workforce. I think the pandemic and so many other things, HR departments across the country have faced challenges that they never thought they'd be having to face, and it is a very interesting and odd economy right now. So thank you so much for your dedicated work to keep this organization moving in the right direction. What I feel has already been said by this council. We care so deeply about our employees. I am so honored to get to show up to different meetings and hear from members of the community about the quiet, dedicated service that members of our city staff provide at every level of government, at every level in the organization. And it's so meaningful to this council to know that we have such a great workforce. But it's critical that we implement actions like this to make sure that we're headed in the right direction and continuing to move forward. So excited to see where this goes, excited to get good fruit from this, and know that our workforce is going to be more engaged, and Waco is going to continue to be a desirable place to work under Bradley Ford and our CMO team. So thank you, Missy. To you.
All right, thanks, Council, for those comments. I'm excited to report back here in the next few months on that work. Our next work session presentation is a discussion of the city's website redesign project and new content management system. I think we had an interim update a while ago on this, but if the public's not aware, we are very close to launching a new website, which probably more than anything these days is the way that people find out information about our city and how to access services and opportunities. So I'm excited for the public to hear and the council to hear from Mike Seawright, our Chief Information Officer, as well as Monica Settlemeyer, our Director of Marketing and Communications. They could present a project update on the redesign, and I just want to, and I know they will as well, give kudos and credit to really the whole team that's behind each of these individuals making this project happen. We're excited to press go, but it's a good point in time to acknowledge the hundreds of hours that have been taken on by staff to really bring us to this day. So I'll let Mike start, I believe, and then we'll hear from Monica after that.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Also, too, big kudos to Bradley and Mr. Holt for supporting this as well. And we appreciate you for investing in the redesign project and the content management system that manages our website, our new website. So just a quick review of our agenda. I'll go through a project overview. We'll talk a little bit about the background of this project, talk about some stats. And really the star of the show is the highlights section where Monica will give us a demo of the live site itself and kind of go through it. So show us some of the features and functionality of the new website. Then we'll talk about future developments and next steps. So just a reminder of our goals. When we started this project, the City of Waco core team and Open Cities set these goals. Very proud of those goals, and I think that we've done a great job, and Open Cities has done a great job of keeping these goals front and center to make sure we take a mobile-first approach to everything we do. Equity, accessibility, and transparency is at the forefront as well. And I think, too, empowering our internal departments and stakeholders to have a system they can use to translate their business processes to the web. This next slide here talks a little bit about the why. As we started looking at this, I think it was pretty obvious that we needed a new redesign of the website. And then we also needed a government business-focused solution to drive that website, to make sure we were thinking of the services that our residents need and our businesses need and keeping that in front of us at all times. And we felt like Open Cities did the best job going through that. I think I broke a few PowerPoint rules here, but a couple of quick, just some of the questions that we asked ourselves as we went through that process, and just kind of what I was talking about, just making sure that it integrated nicely with our existing systems. And then we selected a partner that understood government business. And again, the Open Cities team, they've done an outstanding job of helping us through that. And most importantly, we've talked about it before with the My Waco solution. Those omni-channel communication touch points are just so critical that we're not just thinking of one medium, that we're putting everything in front of us. And the last part here that I want to talk through is just, these are some of the tasks, the major tasks within our project to hit those goals. My hope is that we continue to leverage these tasks so that we're constantly getting better and that we're looking for new opportunities to get better in each of these areas. And then we just don't go live and then walk away from it. We look at ways to get better throughout the process. I think digital outreach is another biggie that I think we can do better at, and training as well for our internal departments.
When people want to obtain information on the City of Waco, statistics show us that a majority of users search for City of Waco and are directed directly to the site. Our website sees over 2.8 million views per year. So as we developed the layout and design for the new website, we utilized the current site statistics to streamline the content for quicker access to service. We looked at what are people searching for and how do we make sure that the website is still easy to use. Data tells us that we average about 65% of our total views on a mobile device, and that percentage is increasing every single year. So the mobile design, which is viewed here, and the usability of this design were extremely important, if not more important to us than the desktop view. In other words, most users will only ever see our website in this view. We kept this in mind throughout the entire process so that the site remains usable in a mobile format and it's easy to navigate at the fingertips of the user. So here is the desktop view of the new website. One comment, while this is a great photo, we have the ability to easily change it as frequently as we want. We anticipate changing it to reflect various events going on, highlighting specific services or scenes in Waco, and we wanted to keep it fresh and reflective of the city. So now we're going to go live to our site. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so we're going to just kind of take a stroll down, starting at the top. So one of the new things that we have the ability to do is add a citywide message to the top of the page, as seen here, such as the water restrictions. We can set timelines for these messages and also links to direct them to more information. This next section down maintains access to our meeting agendas, such as the City Council meeting agenda, our codes and ordinances, access to our My Waco TV, which will show various videos, and also where people can go and watch our live streaming of City Council meetings. Got access to our social media sites and YouTube channel. And then here's one thing I wanted to point out. We have a robust ability to change to various languages. Right now you'll see me click through to a Spanish version with a simple click. Additionally, when this goes live, there'll be multiple other languages that you will be able to access. I'm going to go back to the English version. Okay, so this next section really focuses on the resident. We wanted easy ways for the resident to be able to access these tabs. So this first section is about Waco. This highlights some of our history and some of our amazing attractions. This next section is our business tab, and it's geared towards businesses. So it's opportunities here. You can see our bid opportunities, incentives. This Why Waco talks about some of our economic development. Data still shows us that people want to have access directly to departments, and so we maintained a direct link to our various departments throughout the city. The next tab over is government, which will highlight our boards and commission, budget reports, powerful staff searchable city directory, and also links to our city leadership are accessible via this link. And then lastly, we have a page directed specifically for our residents. As you can see here, there's access to our newsletter, some common questions, how to contact the city, and there's this My Home section. This will take them to various codes and ordinances that they might need to know about their home, how to access their water bill, maybe how to gain access to their garbage services as well. So as we kind of scroll down a little bit, you'll see this search function. This is an extremely important new feature on our website. This section here pulls directly from our own site content. So if a resident or anybody who's going to our website doesn't quite know where they need to link, go ahead in here and search for it, and it should pull up any and all information that is currently within our website. So a great new feature that we have. Additionally, you'll see these top 6 boxes that are here that are right on the home page. These are our top 6 sites right now that people have searched within our current website. So wanted to maintain easy access to these various icons that our residents have been looking for. The idea here really is to keep the layout a simple format and easily accessible. Some of the top things here is, again, paying your water bill, and then also an ability to look for our excellent job opportunities.
Monica, on the report a problem, is that similar to on one of those the second button, I guess, to the left there? Is that just like what you can do on the My Waco app, essentially, but on the website?
Exactly. I clicked on it for your, and so it brings you right to the My Waco app information.
That's really cool.
Monica, can I also interrupt you?
Yes.
With the directory on the current website, there are some city employees who have email addresses listed and lots that do not. Will they all be listed?
They are.
Relevant people listed here?
They are. We submitted to Open Cities at this point in time, kind of who our current list is. I can just take you there if you, now you're going to put me on the spot of where I need to go back and find this. Government, city directory. And so let's say we want to learn more about Monica. And so down here we'll have who I am, how to connect me. This will, if you're on your mobile device, will automatically call or automatically email as well.
Wow, cool.
I can't tell you how many times I've looked up on my own Outlook some city employee's email address and then given it to a resident. So us giving this directly into our resident's hand is a huge win.
Yeah. And is some of the content, I realize this is not the go live version of the site. This is modeling this for our purposes to be able to see it before it occurs. But I think there was some content that I saw in here that looked like it wasn't it was maybe migrated from an older version of our current website. Is that fair? This is not all up-to-date, finalized
It
content.
should be, Josh, so if there's
Okay.
instances where you're running into something that's not working, please let us know. I'll kind of get to this, but I'll make the point now. This is obviously very fluid. You were kind of working through transitioning things from the old website, new site, building new content. So if there is anything that seems to not be working or it's clicking wrong, please let us know.
Okay.
We want this to be a very usable, useful tool for anybody who's going out to our website. And so if there's instances where something doesn't seem right, please let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, just click the City of Waco, will always bring you back to the homepage. Kind of scrolling down a little bit, we've got a section for our most recent news that's happening, so our City Weekly information's here. Got a traffic alert for Ironman that's coming up in a couple weeks. A tab for our various events that will be coming on, and then also a tab right from the homepage to talk about various public notices that we have. Another feature that I want to quick highlight here is Find Your Neighborhood or Council District. I'm just going to put in where we're at right now. So this is a feature that will pull from your address and will show various things. So you can click what kind of option you want. If you want to know community centers, libraries, events, parks, fire stations that are around you. Otherwise, it will give you a high-level map that will show you what's around. And so you can kind of scroll through the various community centers that are there. Here's some events that are happening. If you want to know where the nearest fire station is, you can click on that and it'll show you. There it is. It will show you Fire Station 1 is the close fire station. Additionally, the East Waco Library that's located here. So a nice feature for anybody really trying to identify what's around them. It'll also tell you when your yard brush collection is, when your recycling collection is, what neighborhood you fall into, and then additionally whom your elected officials are. So obviously Mayor Meek and Councilwoman Rodriguez are the council members for this area.
This is amazing. That is, I know we have a feature that has elements of this on the current website, but for this to be on the homepage with so many different elements that you can click on is incredible. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And as you guys scroll out and stuff too, it'll keep going and keep growing, kind of that list of what's available and what's around you. So if we go back again to the homepage, I'll highlight a couple of things on there, and then we'll jump into one of the department pages to give you an idea of what the internal pages look like. Below here is just, again, another ways to connect with Waco. Other thumbnails that we've learned where people are trying to find ways to be able to adopt an animal, opens records, requests, et cetera. You can kind of see some of those there. If you want to sign up for our City Limits newsletter, you can do that right from the homepage as well. So quickly, I will walk through one of the department pages. I'm going to go down to our Parks and Recs page. They've done a great job. One thing I do want to focus on here is the Parks and Recs team is the one that did this. They built this. They put the time and effort into kind of creating what was important for them, which is a great new feature of our new website. Is it gives kind of some of that ownership back into these departments to input information. And so consistently on any home or any interior page, you'll see this contact us information, kind of where they're located, how to contact them, some social media information to directly connect with them, some helpful information. Again, I had commented about the mobile version being one of the top versions, and so this is a way to kind of look at the interior pages that are on the Parks and Rec page. Again, very accessible when you're on a mobile device. Splash pad notices, so some information that they wanted to highlight specifically about their department, how you want to find a park, some sports and registration information about the golf course and the Mammoth Monument. And then additionally down here, one thing that they have started to utilize is this calendaring option. And so they have obviously all of their community centers filtered in here. And so you can see what's happening at the various community centers. So if you want to look today, what are they doing? They've got National Night Out happening, Hit the Floor Fitness. They've got Trekking Tuesday if you want to go for a walk with a park ranger in Cameron Park. That's happening tonight. And so just an opportunity, again, to connect with our residents to tell them all of the information that we've got going on through the city. So a pretty neat feature that we're pretty excited about.
Josh, are you normally at Hit the Floor Tuesday?
I'm usually not at Hit the Floor Tuesdays, but I've been eyeballing it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me... Tab back here. Okay, so when we think through some future developments, we are scheduled to go live on Sunday, October 9th. We are so excited to kind of get to this point. We've been working in hand with Open Cities to ensure that we have a smooth transition Sunday night. Just a reminder, this, as I said before, this website is a living tool for us to connect with our residents. We'll continue to fine tune and improve the site. And again, we encourage feedback on anything that you would like to be seen differently or any information if it's been hard to find, please let us know that. We have hundreds of PDFs on our current website. And so we will be working continuously to get those moved over into a forms format. And that is important for a couple of different reasons, both from an ADA compliance, but then also from a translation standpoint. If we've got something in a PDF format on our current website, it does not get translated when you change your browser. This, when it's built into the website from a forms standpoint, will also translate it. So that's an important component to this. Expansion of the subscription feature in the calendars like I had shown. One example, let's say you want to be notified of any new bid opportunities that open up. You can set a reminder and a notification to have those emails pop to you for various subscriptions, and so that's coming. Our webmastress, mistress, Ms. Corey, who's sitting right behind me, will continue to train staff as they come on board and or need help in keeping their sections accurate and useful to our residents. And then obviously a continued evaluation with IT of possible solutions that we could tie into the site that would make things easier for our residents. One thing I wanted to quick point out, while we have been developing the current website, we've also been designing a new internal intranet site for our employees. It'll contain similar functions and features of the new website. We're really excited about the possibilities it will bring and how this will improve our internal engagement with our staff. And before I close, I want to take this opportunity also to publicly show my appreciation and thanks to all of the staff that have been working diligently on this project. It took many people, many hours, and a lot of discernment to ensure that we were creating a product that would be a great resource for our residents, businesses, and our visitors. We have over 22,000 pages on our current site with a lot of content. We appreciate the coordination from IT and all city departments in realizing that this is a powerful tool to communicate and connect with our site visitors. Thank you to the city management team for providing us with the guidance and allowing us the space to create something valuable. And thank you to Mayor and Council for your continued support in this project and continued vision of connecting in greater ways and doing what's best for our community.
Wow, this is phenomenal. This is such a big deal. I know that we don't know 1/1000th of the work that y'all did for this, so thank you for the thoughtfulness. Thank you for making a fully accessible website in Spanish and that will also be available in other languages. That's a huge equity win for us. The fact that y'all casually were like, let's take on the intranet while we're at it is insane, but thank you for that. I'm excited to see the wins that we have out of that. It's so evident that y'all thought through so many different points of views in creating this, of small business owners, longtime Wacoans, new residents, and what they might need, and the way that you created data-informed, data-driven solutions is just really encouraging. This is so much work, and it's really beautiful. It's really aesthetically pleasing. I love thinking about, I mean, we've just lived through so many collective crises the last few years. Having the banner function at the top is really helpful, especially thinking of the winter storm. If that could have been updated every couple of hours and could have been in English and Spanish, how transformative that could have been. I love that there's the capacity to change out the photo on the top to make it relevant, the calendars. This is just a beautiful website. So thank you for making both form and function next level.
I'd like to echo all of those, Mike and Monica. Thank you so much to your teams and everyone that worked very hard on it. I think everything that Councilmember Palmer said is 100% on point. This is a real dream to just look at and navigate, and it seems set up for usability. I don't want to cast aspersions on our current site, but it definitely is a lot clunkier and harder to navigate and find, and this feels more intuitive and just easier to get to the information quicker, and it seems to have more information, the type of information that we look for, like that email address is exactly right, and so many other areas. And thinking of things like the PDFs that can't translate for people that need to hear it and can't read it, I appreciate all that attention to detail and that easy kind of toggle down to Spanish. So this seems like Councilmember Palmer said, a big win for us, big win for the city and engaging our residents and our website users. So thank you so much to you both. I'm excited about this going live.
Okay, can I add one last thing? I wonder, there's so many voiceovers in the short video realm, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram right now. I wonder if we could create a short voiceover that does what you just did, that's talking about these are the few things that you might need, and push that on social media. I think, like Councilmember Borderwood said, our current website doesn't feel super intuitive or user-friendly, and I think even a 30-second to 2 or 3 minute video of y'all talking through some of the different components might be really helpful to encourage people to explore this website.
I think that this council has a just real commitment to, one, being accessible to our residents, and two, making sure that we are first in class in everything that we do. The phrase that we've said so many times is, we might not be the tallest guy on the basketball team, but we're on the varsity basketball team. And I think that this is a website that demonstrates that. And I think that as we continue to grow and progress in this community, in our city, you're seeing first-in-class services being delivered, and this website is certainly reflective of that. So echo what's been said. So thankful for this great work, and excited for our residents to get to benefit from this as well, and excited to hear about the internal use of the webpage as well. So excited for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Council, for all those comments. Mike and Monica, please share the good news with your team members.
Next up, we've got
Another exciting presentation, I feel like. Amy's laughing at me. But it's
3 council meetings in a row.
Oh, wow.
They call that the triple crown.
The 18th, I must think about.
I'm on vacation.
Oh, Amy's here. Amy Berlardi Highland, our Director of Public Works, is here to talk about the neighborhood traffic calming policy that staff has drafted. This is, I think it's a cool presentation. I think it's going to solicit hopefully a lot of feedback from the council, because I know speeding and pedestrian safety is an issue that you often hear about. And so I'm excited for Amy to share what the staff's been researching and what they've put together to help our residents report issues and work through kind of a continuum of solutions that would be effective. So Amy, why don't you take us away?
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm really pleased to be bringing this presentation to get some feedback and discussion today about traffic calming in the city. And again, I can't get the thing to go. All right. Today we're going to cover what is traffic calming, why do we need traffic calming measures in the city, some examples of traffic calming. There are many, many, many. We'll talk about a few today. How do residents and neighborhood associations or HOAs request a traffic calming study? How do we decide which measures are the best measures to slow traffic down in a neighborhood? And then we'll talk about traffic calming that we've done in Waco. So what is traffic calming? They're measures that should slow average speeds down for safe and reasonable drivers. So if you have someone who is not a reasonable driver, traffic calming measures will really not help. If you have a dangerous, aggressive driver, probably not going to help. They are visual measures and physical measures. So striping is one visual measure. You can put down some striping or some cross-hatching that creates a feeling that the street is smaller and people slow down. We have speed feedback signs that will tell motorists how fast they're driving. And then there are physical measures like bulb outs, where we bring the curb out into the street and then back to sort of narrow the street width down and provide some parking refuge areas. We also can reduce pavement widths. We can install roundabouts. There's all kinds of physical measures that can be installed, and of course they increase in complexity and cost as you go up that list of continuum. So why do we need traffic calming? Because local residents are concerned about traffic moving through their neighborhoods, the speed of the traffic, whether or not they're safe, whether their children are safe, are bicyclists and pedestrians safe. And because we have these concerns, we need to have a consistent process that helps us determine
whether an area qualifies and whether measures will be acceptable and get us some good responses. So we look at a bunch of different things. A few of them are traffic volume, how many pedestrians are out there, how many vehicles are turning on and off the street, whether there's a lot of cut-through traffic, that's traffic that's cutting through a neighborhood as a shortcut to get to where they're going. And we also do speed studies to see what the speed of the prevailing speed is in the area. We need consistent guidelines for what measures we might apply and in what way, because frequently there's more than one option, and some options work better in some conditions than others. And that way we know what outcome to expect. And we can employ measures. We can start with sort of the simple, easy, low-cost ones, and then if we have to move up to more expensive or more complex options, we can do that. So this is, to me, a really impactful slide. This is why we're doing this. In Waco, in the past 5 years, we've had 199 pedestrian injuries, 72 bicyclist injuries, 17 pedestrian fatalities, and 4 bicycle fatalities. So what do we know about the information that we have from these accident reports? We actually know a lot of interesting things that I was surprised by when I sort of dug into it. 56% of these accidents happened in the daylight, so it wasn't twilight, it wasn't dark, it was daylight that these accidents were happening. Bicycle accidents and injuries were more downtown and in the Baylor area, as I would expect. The pedestrian injuries and fatalities were pretty much split between residential neighborhoods and urban neighborhoods, and surprisingly, not around the silos area where you would think there's an awful lot of pedestrians and a lot of opportunity for conflict between pedestrians and vehicles. So the Traffic Division of Public Works gets downloads of accident history every week from TxDOT. We get a file from them, and we take all of that data and we comb through it to try and determine if there are areas that are high accident locations, or if whether or not there are things that we can do to make them safer, and whether or not things like traffic signals are warranted, or stop signs and other traffic measures. So here's a few examples. Here's one that we all know of, the 2 little traffic circles that we have on Austin Avenue. They do serve to slow people down for the most part. I guess they really slowed them down when they had those planters in the middle, but I wasn't here back then.
One way or another.
The one on 38th has long been a La Fiesta sobriety checkpoint.
Yeah.
A speed feedback sign that we have installed on Fish Pond. Right now we're collecting data on the speed. Speeds tend to go up after you do an overlay, so we have some before and after data we're looking at for that area. Here's some crosswalks that we've installed, the ones on the left, Colcord, the one on the right is the Paul Kane crosswalk. He really wants me to figure out a place to install that, so I guess I need to talk to Creative Waco about someone much more artistic than me will have to do that installation. And here's our traffic striping crew installing some centerline striping that helps to narrow the street and slow down drivers. So how does a resident request traffic calming? First of all, it'd be nice if the residents took some time to talk to their neighbors or got together with their neighborhood association so that everyone can sort of suss out what it is that they feel like the issues are in their neighborhoods and what do they feel like is a good solution for their area. You can work with your neighborhood association or your homeowners association to have some preliminary discussions about traffic issues. You can review the policy to see if you think you might qualify. And by all means, invite us to come talk to you at any time. We're always available to come to talk to neighborhood associations or homeowners associations. We'll happily answer questions over the phone or by email. And then you would just contact us to request a study. The My Waco app, call us or email us. And we're also going to have a request form on the new website so that people could just send in a request to have us look into it for them. So how do we determine those options? Once we receive a request, we review for eligibility. We'd like it to be a local or neighborhood collector. These are things that we want to do on neighborhood streets, not on streets that are meant to move traffic from one part of the city to the other. It needs to be predominantly single-family residential zoning. Can't be anything that's on the capital program for the next 2 years, because we don't want to install something and then go back and take it right out when we're starting a capital project. Maximum speed limit has to be 30 miles per hour. The volume has to be more than 500 vehicles per day. And the current speed that people are traveling at has to be more than 5 miles per hour above the posted speed limit. And we determine that by doing speed counts. So then we'll do a study, and we'll identify what possible measures we could look at in order to do traffic calming. We start, as I said before, with things that are lower cost and less complex and move our way up. We identify funding sources and timelines, and sometimes those funding sources and time could be neighborhood grants, it could be safety grants. We get money, highway safety improvement money and transportation alternative funds from TxDOT. So there's a lot of possibilities for funding for projects. And then we meet with the neighborhood and we present to them what we found and different options that we have and what we could do. And we usually have some exhibits with pictures that say, well, we could build this, or, you know, we could try this first and then we could try that. And we would like to have the neighborhood come to a consensus about what the majority of the people would like to see. We don't want to implement something that most of the people are not happy with. So sometimes that takes a few meetings. We're happy to come to multiple meetings to talk about it. Sometimes the neighborhood has to sort of think about it before they decide what they'd like to see. And then we move ahead and we implement those improvements. Generally, after that, maybe 6 months later, we update the speed study to see whether or not what we did was successful. And then if it wasn't successful, we can start a conversation about what further measures we think we should move up the ladder to do. So basically, in the traffic study, these are all of the things that we look at, that we incorporate. I'm not going to read them all to you. We look at what types of vehicles, how many trucks, what kind of accident history do we have? Do we have sidewalks? Do the sidewalks have compliant ramps? All kinds of characteristics are sort of baked into our traffic study. So this little graphic indicates sort of cost and complexity. So as you start on the left side, edge line striping or striping improvements are low cost and not very complex, and we can do that with our own striping crews that work for the city. And then we move up to signage and enhanced stop signs, maybe with lights, with solar lights or oversized signs, transverse rumble strips, driver feedback signs, and then we move all the way up to the physical measures on the right side that go as far as full street closures, and things like that are fairly expensive to implement. So traffic calming in the real world, I see some nods up there from one particular person. We did do a study in the Austin Avenue neighborhood. People were concerned about the speed that the traffic was traveling on Austin Avenue. At the time, they had the two traffic signals at 29th and 38th Street, and they do have some roadway narrowing with a bulb out in the Castle area. So the additional measures that we ended up adding for that was we added a centerline stripe, and we put raised pavement markers down that stripe to provide a little bit of a rumble effect when if people were speeding and traveling outside of their lane. We added white edge lines to provide parking and bicycle lanes. We looked at doing individual parking stalls, but there's a lot of area there that doesn't have sidewalks. So the residents felt like they would prefer to have just an edge line and let that organically either be a parking area if it was needed or a walking, biking area. And that seems to have worked out really well. And we put up radar speed signs. So here's a picture of the bulb outs that were existing. You see they're painted, so they bring your attention to it. And you can see the center line that we have installed. And here's a picture with the center line, the edge line, and the radar feedback sign, one of the two that we have. So what happened? Our 85th percentile speed is now 34 miles per hour. The 85th percentile speed is the speed at which 85% of the traffic is traveling at that speed or lower. And in traffic engineer lingo, that's sort of the gold standard for how you determine what is the appropriate speed. So the traffic speed on the Austin Avenue corridor now, depending on where you're at, is 3 to 6 miles per hour slower than the speeds were prior to when we installed those traffic calming measures. So we would call that a success. So to date, we've done traffic calming on Austin Avenue, Fish Pond, and we have speed signs on 17th and 18th Street in the Sanger Heights neighborhood. We're collecting some data over there to see what we can do to help out in that area. And in addition to all this traffic calming, I just wanted to point out that the Traffic and Safety Office does numerous investigations every year. We did 157 this past year that ended up with 123 work orders generated for the traffic crew. So that could be something as simple as saying, there's a stop sign knocked down in my neighborhood, or I don't think my speed limit is posted properly, or, you know, I think we need a crosswalk here, all the way up to, I think we need a traffic signal at this location. So they run the gamut from simple to complex. Our conclusion is that we think this new policy is going to formalize a process that we've had in practice for the last several years, and we think it's working well. We've sort of proofed it out. We had it reviewed by an independent consultant, and they gave us some good feedback, and we made some adjustments based on that. And then we think this is going to provide uniformity and guidance to neighborhoods on what the city can and cannot do. And I just, again, can't emphasize too much that we can get a noticeable improvement, but not a drastic improvement. We're 3 to 6 miles an hour is a big success for us in these. But we are talking about streets where the prevailing speed is 30 miles per hour. And it supports safety and livability in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Amy, this is phenomenal. I spent maybe an hour reviewing all of the documentation that was in our packets, because this is one of the things I hear most about from District 4 residents, is just concern about how dangerous some of our neighborhoods are for kids playing in the street. I've never lived in a community where there's more dead animals than in Waco, and particularly in the core of the city. Just concern for bicyclists as we're trying to move our city in greener directions, and the very real threat to people's physical safety. That statistic that you shared in the beginning of the number of pedestrian and bicyclist fatalities reminded me, there's these signs that are going around St. Louis right now that y'all might have seen online. Someone created these signs that say, if you're thinking about crossing any street in the city of St. Louis, wear a helmet. And so there are like helmets attached to all of these street poles, and it's kind of a joke. Like, it's not done by the official city, but it's this scathing review on how dangerous it is to cross the streets in St. Louis right now. So it's all over the internet. It's a fascinating read. But I was thinking about that earlier this week in light of this process, and I think it's really helpful for residents to know this is where we can go, this is how many folks we need to talk to. A couple of suggestions just from my work in conversation with residents. I'd love for us to expand this from purely R1B to more zoning areas. I have neighborhoods in District 4 that are predominantly other zones, and so would hate for them to be left out of this. Even streets like North 25th running from Franklin all the way up to Maple, parts of that are really residential single-family homes. Some are mixed use, some, up by the fire station, that's mostly commercial, but there are a few single-family homes in there, and I want those residents to feel just as safe on their street as anybody else. I think it would be great for us to also allow neighborhood associations to be a single applicant. I'm curious what our total amount of funding is that we're setting aside for this. I know that you named there's lots of different grants that we could consider, or I love the idea of neighborhoods being able to apply for our neighborhood association grant funding if this pot is low, but what do you anticipate for this next fiscal year, the amount of money being set aside for this?
Well, we have some money in the traffic budget, and obviously our crews like the sign crew and the striping crew are already funded for the year. So if it's something we can implement with city staff, it's a very low cost option. We also have a sign shop, so we make our own signs. So all of those things are easily doable within the budget that we already have. Okay. If it's something that's more physical measures, like installing curb and bulb outs and landscape and planting, then that's something we'll have to do a deeper dive into where we have the funding or look at our capital plan and see if we have a project coming up that we could incorporate it in.
Okay, I have a list of probably 5 sections of streets throughout D4 that I hear from over and over and over again. A lot of Colcord on both the Dean Highland and Sanger Heights side, truly any one-way street in the core of the city, Herring, Lyle, 17th, 18th. The neighbors in Sanger Heights and 17th are so thrilled and so grateful for the work that you and your team did. I find myself traveling a lot slower down it now that the speed of traffic has slowed down. The other question that I would just love for us to consider as we think through this is how do we make sure that we are doing funding in an equitable way to ensure that the areas of town that really need this are getting this. And I think equity and fairness might be different things in this case, but would love for us to, just consider thinking, how do we really target the areas that we know need this? Because there are so many areas in Waco where people are driving like wild banshees.
Yeah, great report, Amy. Always a lot of data in that on traffic calming. And I'll just, immediately it came to my mind as Councilmember Palmer kind of addressed some of her streets, but the Lake Air Residential Street is one that I think, this was several years ago.
That had
But-
that speed feedback.
Yeah, they had that, and we actually had a little meeting out there. It was very productive, kind of followed the same deal that you're talking about informally. I like the idea of making that kind of a formal process. But Rambler now is a cut through, as you mentioned, there's several of those. Bishop, and then out, and Fish Pond, which you also mentioned, where we've done some work there. But also out in the China Spring area, Flat Rock and Tree Lake, as those kind of country roads become slow down streets, those kind of issues are coming up out there too. I did notice that conspicuous in its absence was your mention of speed bumps. We don't, and that's always like, it seems when a resident wants to come and say, hey, we got to slow them down, how about we put a speed bump out there? It's hard to explain to them that you just can't do that, because of safety reasons and emergency reasons. You can't have a giant speed bump in the middle of Lake Air. But I guess rumble strips now are kind of, is that sort of the same thing, or
Yeah,
maybe
they
not
are.
as severe?
Yeah, that's a good question.
They are, and I think people tend to think that speed bumps are a great idea until they have one in front of their house.
Exactly.
And when there's one in front of their house, then usually there's a sign that warns, so they have one sign in their front yard and they have it in front of their house. And then when the landscape truck drives by and the guy slows his pickup down to get over it, and then as soon as the pickup's over it and it's smooth for him, he hits the gas and everything in the back of the truck goes up and slams down.
Yeah.
It really gets to be unpleasant to have in your neighborhood. And then there's also the, emergency services, the fire trucks and the police cars have to slow down when they go over them
Right.
as well.
Yeah,
So
to me, that's the logical
there's
reason.
a lot of downsides, and there's also some significant accident histories to younger, inexperienced drivers who aren't paying attention, who hit them and lose control when they go over a speed
Sure.
bump.
One thing on here where we talk about the definition of local and neighborhood collector, is there like a map somewhere
Yes.
is it on our brand new website? That'd be great.
Well, it can be. I mean,
Yeah.
our Waco public map has a layer that you can turn on that
Great,
shows you.
because and then maybe define what those are too, because I know that became a real issue when we were talking on that Lake Air, because Lake Air isn't commercial all the way, I'm not talking from Waco Drive to Valley Mills, I'm talking Valley Mills on back to Hillcrest, where it's residential. And it's sort of, if you know what a neighborhood collector street is and kind of what the expectation is, well, people will maybe modify their expectations of what the traffic looks like out in front of the house. Another solution that you didn't mention is speeding tickets. I mean, can we mobilize, I know in certain cases where you don't want to change the physical construction with bulb outs and extra striping, that I've seen, I think this is what we did on Lake Air, that speed indicator, I think we have a trailer, I think, but I imagine.
PD has a trailer.
Yeah, a trailer, and then just a couple weeks of handout speeding tickets. I mean, that seems less expensive, or, I don't want to rebuild a street if I can just get a hold of it and remind people, hey, don't speed here? I mean, is that I don't want to lose that as a motivator.
Yeah, it's not in here because it's not something that we have control over. I mean, we can request PD. We work with PD on a lot of things, but that's really their resource to choose what's the most appropriate way for them to deploy that resource. And handing out speeding tickets works, but it works for a short period of time. After people have determined that the police officers aren't there anymore or not there regularly, the speed just sort of drifts up. I mean, it's good if you have an acute problem and if you have staff that you can rotate through on a regular basis, or, you know, or a frequent random basis to sort of have people not know when the police officer is going to be there enforcing, then it can be a longer term measure, but it really is a choice of where you use your resources. And
do we know how much those little speed indicator signs, how much, I mean, are those like, what, are they $10,000 a piece or 100 or?
No. I think the ones that we got are in the 2,500 range.
Yeah.
I'll have to check and get back to you. And those actually store data, so we can download the data from that slide.
And aren't some of them solar powered also?
Yes, they are solar.
Just seems like, I mean, other than the couple cases where we did put those in as traffic calming, it seems like they had an effect. I know on Lakeshore Drive, as you come down that hill and go around the Lakeshore, there's one there, and I think everybody kind of hits the brakes. But I like maybe the light solutions here. But I appreciate the methodology, and particularly as Waco's growing and these neighborhoods are becoming filled, some vibrant neighborhoods, and kids running around, we've got to be able to get control of the speeding traffic going through there. So I appreciate your efforts here.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay. Amy, thanks so much for this presentation and this approach. I do think it's wise to have kind of more standard metrics for how to evaluate the requests for these. Obviously, you know, in a perfect world, every single street would incorporate some kind of creative blend or mix of traffic calming. But I do think that having kind of objective criteria is probably the way forward, because I obviously, as we referenced and as you referenced in the presentation, I think that the Austin Avenue traffic calming did work well, and I think that was a sentiment shared by a majority of our residents, and I think kind of the creative solution of just essentially striping what looks like a shoulder if you drive down the street is kind of a nice hybrid of a bike lane, a parking lane, a pedestrian lane, and it gives drivers a sense of where they should be in that very wide road, and it gives bicyclists and pedestrians and folks pushing strollers or walking dogs a sense of where they should be in those wide roads. So I appreciate the good work there, and also the speed feedback signs I think are very helpful, and I see people every day kind of slow as they approach. So and I too, you know, my church is near 18th, 17th Street, and I think those were working well. So I'm hopeful that this gets kind of rolled out, because a lot of these I would think are, from the city budget's perspective, more cost-effective measures that aren't, you know, don't require huge amounts of budgetary allocations, but that are, you know, some striping. I would think that's something on the lower end of cost to the city. But so thanks for your good work on this and your creativity. I think that it's worked well for the neighborhoods where it's been piloted, and looking forward to seeing this expand in the city.
The only thing that I might add to this is there's some neighborhoods in my district that do not have neighborhood associations. But if a request is sent in from a resident or, you know, I hope that they're looked at just as intently as a letter from a neighborhood association, because they don't have any other voice except themselves and me, but it would help me if their letter comes in and you give it as much thought process behind it as you would a letter coming from a neighborhood association, because I can think of 2 or 3 areas in my district that do not have neighborhood associations. So I'd appreciate all thoughts and efforts being done to those as well.
Yeah, and in that case, I'd really want to work with you to make sure that you
fine.
feel like it's appropriate, what we're doing is an appropriate measure for that area.
That would be fine. I think I get a lot of calls from 10th Street, South 10th Street and 9th Street because of the silo traffic and tourist parking in front of their homes and all kinds of, different people coming into their neighborhoods because of the tourism. And I know tourism is valuable to us, but I try and tell them, calm down and we'll try and do what we can. And I have turned some of those in, and city has gone out there and worked with the neighborhoods. But that one sticks out in my mind as much as anything, because those are the ones that I get a lot, and they do not have a neighborhood association running yet. So thank you for that. You'll do that. Thank you.
Amy, one last thing. I'm assuming you probably received this email from Bradley via a resident, but one of my residents sent me this incredible article on street murals as a form of traffic calming, which the creative in me loves, with Creative Waco here and the just incredible influx of local artists that we have. Is that one of the methods that we're considering for street calming in, different areas of town, that we could add beauty to the neighborhood and also do some traffic calming and safety at the same time?
Can I say something about that? Sure. I know there's murals on South 11th Street, and I look at that and I'm just, I'm distracted from the traffic. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I enjoy the murals, but I'm thinking, I'm
These ones are on the ground.
something to think about, I think, because if it was a busier street, I probably would have gotten into the other lane. But that's something to think about the murals. It would distract me. It has, the ones on 11th Street, on the big building there between Webster and the railroad tracks. Mm-hmm. They're beautiful murals, beautiful. It's just, you're distracted by them, and I'm just lucky no one was on the other side of that.
To respond to that, Councilwoman Palmer, we actually did apply for a grant from Bloomberg, working with Creative Waco, when we did the crosswalk for Bridge Street, because we wanted to do that as a street art project, and we weren't successful in that getting funded, but that is something that we do look at.
Okay.
And I sit on a strategic committee for Federal Highway Administration, and I know they're in rulemaking right now for that. So I will check on the status of that rulemaking. I think we would be smarter to wait until it's complete and accepted before we moved forward.
Okay. To Councilwoman Rodriguez's point, I don't think this being on the ground is a best fit for everywhere, but potentially some of the articles that I was reading just had really interesting ideas of this also does placemaking, it brings people together, you can have some green spaces depending on what you're trying to hit through the angle. So I'm always on board for us coming up with creative ways that make our community safer and beautify it at the same time. So it's encouraging to hear that you're plugged in to all of those conversations.
I just agree with what's been said. I think we have a high priority for safety, and this is one important subject to cover. I think that a lot of what I'm hearing too is wanting to create a culture here, and I think that it's a team effort. And so what I would just say is I love our traffic and street engineering team coming together to think about what are traffic calming methods that we can do, working with our police department to make sure that there's proper enforcement through ticketing. If I got a speeding ticket on a street, then more likely than not, I'm going to be going a little slower the next time. Or if you know that there is vigilant patrolling of speeding, then a little more likely to obey that. And then I think also really thinking through, continuing to think through as we go, each of us in our community, as well as city leaders, about how we create personal responsibility for this. I think that I want there to be a point of pride for Wacoans to know that, hey, when you're driving through a neighborhood, we're going to go slow, or we're going to be honoring to our neighbors. So I don't know if there's signage that we can do that says something like "Love your neighbor, drive slow," creative things like that. And that's a bad example, but I think utilizing signs to build out a culture as much as and send a message that is important. Children at play, things like that. But I agree with what's been said that there's a variety of means to do this. Some of them are more expensive and more inexpensive, but my hope is that these different measures can come together and create this culture where we're being thoughtful about safety. And one thing that I haven't heard as much from in this meeting, but is just even the noise volume that comes from some of our traffic too, and the quality of life that I think is benefited through calmer traffic where there isn't excessive, loud, fast-moving vehicles in residential areas or near those. Very thankful for this. I'm excited, and I think that this demonstrates to our citizens a real commitment to hearing from them. This is something that I think each of us have heard a lot from our constituents on. I certainly have, even recently, saying, I've lived in the Corps forever. This has always been an issue. We know that living here, but it really seems to be increasing recently for some reason. So an eye towards this is important, and I think is going to be really valuable to our folks. So thanks for your work here.
Thank you.
I think that is all of the work sessions that we have for today.
We have one more, sir. We have Clint
hearings.
Peters
Great.
with, I think, just 2 public hearings on the agenda tonight, but I didn't want to forget him. Never can forget our Clint.
That's right. We are going easy on you this meeting. We only have the 2 public hearings.
Thank you.
And both of them are dealing with subdivision plats. So the first one is a final plat of the Elm Lake Edition, lots 1 through 7. This is a ETJ plat out in the eastern portion of the ETJ out in Riesel ISD on the other side of the Brazos River here. It's a 7-lot subdivision ranging in size from 1.5 acres up to 6 acres, all on county roads, and the H&H Water Supply Company serves the lots. And Plan Commission recommended approval of this plat. And then our last plat, 755, is final plat and construction plans of Park Meadows South Addition Phase 3. This is the 3rd phase out of 4 of Park Meadows South, which is a large single-family residential subdivision out on Ritchie Road in Warren on the edge of our city limits. This is the overall approved preliminary plat. You can see the area in green is Phase 3. You have Ritchie Road up on the right side of the map, and then a realigned Warren Road here that will be built with Phase 4 in a future phase. Phase 1 and 2 are in this section here that are under construction with a bunch of houses already built, and then Phase 3 that backs up and connects to Farm Miller Road, which is currently a county road that's partially paved, and then a portion of it is still gravel. They will be submitting an annexation for this Phase 3, and it includes 301 lots. This part of the preliminary plat for Farm Miller Road is that it would be upgraded to a agreed upon standard, and that includes paving and then some standards that bring it up kind of in between a county and a city street standard, because it is currently a county road that will be coming into the city. The ordinance has a different requirement than a typical city street. This one's coming to you with a little bit different recommendation than you normally see. Typically, the Plan Commission will hear these and work all the issues out, and then it's recommended with approval. Because of what we call the shot clock rule that was part of House Bill 3167, that requires, when there's a resubmittal to the Plan Commission, requires them to act on it within 15 days, or it's deemed approved by the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission did recommend approval of this in August with conditions, and then they resubmitted, and we weren't able to get a meeting scheduled within that 15-day, and so it does come to you for action. There is still one condition that's outstanding, and so even though the Plan Commission, due to their inaction, approved it, we would recommend to the council that it's approved with a condition. And that condition is they need to submit the construction plans for the Farm Miller Road to upgrade that road in compliance with the approved preliminary plat. They are working on that, and we do anticipate that they'll be submitting that to us. And so if y'all do approve with conditions, you'll be seeing this again in your next couple of meetings once the plans have been submitted, reviewed, and then approved. And then we'll bring it back to you for approval.
Clint, just so I'm clear on this, is something I should know but don't. If you submit plans for the street construction, does that mean you're going to do the street construction? Is that how that? Okay.
There's a requirement, and that's what our condition is based on. There was a requirement on the preliminary plat that once they got to either their 700th lot or connecting the Farm Miller, they would upgrade that Farm Miller. And so this phase gets them up to 763 lots, plus it has a connection. So they'll submit the plans and then they'll build it out as part of this phase.
Thank you for that clarification.
So the question on just kind of the site plan submitted. So currently, like West Warren coming from Hewitt Drive, kind of dead ends, I guess, at Ritchie. Is this plat, essentially there will be, in the realignment of West Warren, will it continue to go to Farm Miller once this is complete? Like when you know what I'm saying, if you're driving from Hewitt Drive on West Warren, or because you've got Hewitt where that kind of, I guess, Warren is, like what's that gonna look like?
Yeah, so currently here's Warren Road, and it comes down and then tees into Ritchie Road, and then you have to actually, go down Ritchie and then turn back on Warren Road. They're disconnected basically, right. And then you go on to Hewitt. When the fourth phase is built out, that Warren Road will be realigned so that matches up. That curved road right there will be the new alignment of Warren Road, and that would be
so it'll go through the subdivision.
Correct.
To connect them.
Yeah,
so like coming from kind of that border with Hewitt, you'll cross Ritchie,
right,
swerve kind of through, and then onto the current West Warren that goes out to Farm Miller.
Very similar to what we did with Ritchie Road, where it used to 90, and then when we rebuilt Ritchie Road, it now curves.
Okay.
But in this case, that extension of Warren will be built by the developer.
Okay.
And so you can see actually phase 4 will be on the other side of Warren Road. When that's upgraded, Warren Road will extend here, and then there'll be phase 4, which will be on the other side of the new Warren Road.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. That's all we have.
All right, are there any requests for future agenda items? If not, we will recess executive session. We will recess the work session and reconvene regular session for executive session as read into the record by City Secretary at 4:42 p.m.
Attorney briefing, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071, Thale Construction Company Incorporated versus City of Waco, Texas, cause number 2022-1802-5, pending in the 414th Judicial District Court. Real Property, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072, and Economic Development, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.087. The City Council may go on, that's it.